The next case that he talks about that I didn't know about was under Tsar Nicholas I. And so the Russian Imperial Secret Service was known as the Okhrana. Okhrana. And one of its notable spies was a 23-year-old traveling salesman named Yevno Azev. He was from a small town of Liskovo, Russia, and finding himself in financial problems, he escaped to Germany. Throughout his money woes, living in Germany, he would keep contact with the Russian police and would try to get information to sell the names of revolutionaries in Germany for a price. So he was informing and spying on the leftists and the socialists. In 1894, he moved to Bern and married and joined the Union of Russian Revolutionaries. He was throughout this time a double agent, and this reminds me of kind of some of the stuff that we read about in Dostoevsky's stories, right? Where we have these socialists, and then we have the czarist secret police trying to stamp out the socialists. And ended up creating a good position for his favorite spy as an engineer in the General Electric Company. This enabled Azov to work at the center of the revolutionary movement. He was very clever as a spy and was never suspected as a double agent, even though he was for pretty much most of his life. He ended up kind of undermining a whole bunch of socialist operations and efforts. There was a couple times where it looked like he was going to be caught and executed, and yet he masterfully made his way through these operations. Man, it's so hard to breathe here. I'm doing everything I can. Now, his story doesn't end because one summer evening in St. Petersburg, he attended a cafe where he became enchanted with one of the local entertainers, a woman named Hedy Dyer. She became his mistress. Hedy was a German girl who entertained as a singer, but her warm smile and sparkling eyes and shapely figure were her main attributes. Before meeting Azov, she had been one of the party girls who attended the wild affairs of Grand Duke Cyril and his fun-loving brother Boris. It was all great fun. It was also profitable for the showgirl, and by the time that the Russo-Japanese War was over, she had made 50,000 rubles, with which she foolishly invested in a Siberian gold mine. Mr. Azov, who was 39 when he met Hedy, posed as a prosperous merchant who enjoyed the company of beautiful women. His wife knew him only as a dedicated revolutionary, but all of this time he was playing his double role as a secret agent. Yevno's life changed when he met Hedy and arrived on the scene, and she envisioned him as a delightful man with whom she fell in love. They spent every moment together. And, of course, this fell apart because the revolutionaries began to question, why are you living such an extravagant lifestyle if you're a socialist communist? Feeling the pressure, Azov took Hedy, his mistress, to Germany. He left with her parents, and they went to Glasgow, where a Russian cruise ship was being built. And the engineer, Mikhail Kostenko, was a social revolutionary who met with Azov, and together they conceived up the plan to assassinate Nicholas II. The plan was going to be that on the boat, they would kill the Tsar while he was inspecting the ship. So Azov was an agent provocateur who had concocted this whole plan to entrap all of these socialist revolutionaries and then out them when they wanted to kill Tsar Nicholas II. Of course, this plan failed, and it was all the information was given over to the Okhrana. And Azov, who acknowledged that he had been an agent, was almost caught. He was found guilty, but turns out it was decided to lure him to a villa and stage his accidental death. So they staged his death, and I think he ran away to Germany again with Hedy. So quite an adventurous life that this man lived. What a character. See, all these stories are crazy. They, like every one of these would make a wild movie. But we certainly can't have any heroes of Russia. They have to all be bad guys. Isn't it wild that none of these people pop up? So these are all these like famous, 1800s, 1900s, all these famous spy stories, and nothing pops up for these people. Interesting. Of course, it's just Hedy Lamarr. No, not Hedy Lamarr. Although, I mean, pretty much all of these old entertainers, you know what I mean? Like, they're almost all spies. I don't even know if Hedy Lamarr was a spy, but I won't be surprised. Maybe she was. I can't remember. Let's see if she was. Was she a spy? Yes, she was. Looks like. Hedy Lamarr's military invention? What? Her technological contributions were squandered? What? This sounds crazy. She was pigeonholed as a one-dimensional Hollywood object. Her never used contribution to military technology. I didn't know she was born to a Jewish family. She escaped the Tiny Mustache Men to, I guess, come to LA. She also developed a system to protect allies. What? This is crazy. Spread spectrum technology would become the forerunner of what was used in today's Wi-Fi. Come on now. Is this for real? What? This is crazy. But was she a spy? Hedy Lamarr and composer George Antheil developed radio guidance systems. Okay, I mean, I could. This is just crazy. I mean, I study this stuff all the time. I didn't even know this. So, secret communication system that they developed. Well, that's crazy. Who knew that? Anyway. All right. Moving on. The KGB does not always expect immediate results in its blackmail efforts. It maintains files during the this was written during the Cold War still. It maintained files at 2 Dzerzhinsky Square that were kept for 50 years. Giant KGB files kept for 50 years to make sure that the information could be stored that might be useful at a future date. In fact, the KGB learned of many individuals in the West who had Skittles proclivities. And one of the famous cases was, I got a funny story here from this, a British... No, a young Italian high-ranking government official, son of a high-ranking government official. KGB got dirt on him. Anyway, that one's kind of stupid, but this is crazy. So, President Sukarno of Indonesia in the 1960s was famous for his amorous appetite and for visiting ladies of the evening. The KGB hatched a plot by which they would entrap him at some of their facilities when he came to visit, and they would film these escapades, which happened quite a bit. They then brought in President Sukarno and said, guess what? We've got you on tape with all of these ladies. You will now work for us. Sukarno, interestingly, flipped the tables on them and said, do you have copies of all these tapes? I would actually like to show them in my country because my fellow countrymen will be impressed and will cheer me on. And the KGB were sort of left with a mic drop, and they didn't know what to do, so this actually failed. Still sulking over this entrapment case, there was another funny incident where the KGB thought that they had gotten wind of an incident at the 1965 inauguration of LBJ, where a fun-loving British diplomat asked a fellow Soviet minister, Alexander Zinchuk, if he could talk to him privately. They stepped away to the side, and the British diplomat said, "You know, that man over there is not actually Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ was assassinated during the campaign. However, the United States has kept this secret, and they've elected a double agent." Zinchuk could hardly wait to excuse himself, rushing to the nearest telephone to call his handlers. Although his superiors ridiculed the idea, the KGB covertly took this information very seriously and started making inquiries into the possible accident which had gotten rid of LBJ. However, it turns out that this was all disinformation and was a distraction. So, moving on. The next example was a place called Camp David. Now, this is not the Camp David Accords. I don't think this is very different. But this is this is very reminiscent of what you would think about in the Jeff Stein McGeffrey situation, right? Or Craig Spence and the Franklin cover-up. This is the idea of massage parlors and these kinds of places that are actually full of two-way mirrors and devices. So this was becoming more popular in the 1950s. And now this is interesting because this is West Germany. So get this. In 1955, the U.S., under Army Sergeant Glenn Rohrer, was assigned a heavily guarded compound that was used to train European and American agents in operations behind the Iron Curtain. Located at a 12-acre site in Oberrussel, West Germany, 10 miles from Frankfurt, it was known as Camp David. The purpose of this facility was to train black and gray agents. Full-time spies were known as blacks and operated in the Soviet-controlled countries under false identities. Gray were businessmen, tourists, and journalists who agreed to take on espionage assignments for patriotism or for money. All these agents were debriefed and sent to various missions under lie detector tests, blah, blah, blah. Present at virtually every briefing session, Glenn Rohrer knew the names of every agent and the names and identities of hundreds of CIA agents, both black and gray. He was also well aware of their operating procedures, the location of their missions, their contacts, and their successes. Rohrer had been carefully screened and vetted by the CIA before being posted to run Camp David. Stringent regulations were there. However, being stationed there alone, Rohrer felt a strong need eventually to find some female companionship. In 1960, he decided to visit a luxurious Frankfurt massage parlor operated by Lydia Kuzazov. Lydia was the headmistress of the KGB's SEX school, and she had been sent into West Germany by the KGB to set up an espionage ring. She had recruited the most beautiful girls that she could find, and she paid them extremely well for their roles as top-flight ladies of the evening. The patrons were first made comfortable in their pleasant, respectable rooms, and it turns out the massages, which led to happening. Turns out there were microphones, tape recorders, two-way mirrors everywhere. So, Jeff Stein McGeffrey. This led to a gigantic score because Lydia initially demanded from Rohrer blackmail information on all the agents in East Germany. By 1965, Rohrer had supplied the KGB with the names and addresses of, by this time, dozens of CIA agents. And from 1955 to 65, more than 100 agents, CIA agents, were arrested due to this one dude's compromise. All because he wanted to get happy ending. You're like happy ending? So all it takes is one happy ending, dude, and you're cooked. Now, did you guys know that there's old training videos? This is what amazes me is like they put up the training videos for American soldiers on YouTube. Let me think of what that was titled. U.S. You should watch these if you've never seen them. Pretty funny. U.S. military soldier training. It's something like, I don't know if it has. Maybe something like this. Let's try this. But these training videos for the soldiers are pretty funny. If we can find one. No, that's not it. Oh, wait, here we go. This is it. Espionage target. You! I think this is it. Let's see.
This man's name is Nick McCrados. Destination, Munich. Occupation, freelance journalist, door-to-door salesman, jack of all trades, with no particular skill in any. But in Vienna, his last stop in a search of fortune, McCrados made a contact that promises to open for him a whole new career. This girl's name is Tomoko Kimura. Occupation, taxi dancer in Tokyo.
This is like the most archetypal version of this, right? Japanese dancer, you like me, I like you, right? This is great. This is the actual training film. I forgot that I remember watching this like 5 years ago, and I was like, that's actually pretty funny. We should watch that on a stream sometime. And I forgot about it. But yeah, this is like literally the stories that she's describing, right? So like they're recruiting like all the babes, and then these, like, did this guy not watch this video? This is like right around the same time. This is 1960s. Like this video is 64. Did they not send this to Sergeant Rohrer? All because of this dude was just like lonely one night, or maybe he was stationed there for more than one night. But why would you even? I mean, did this dude have no game? Like, you couldn't just go find a date? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was an ugly dude.
Music hall, a favorite night spot of American servicemen. Lately, having struck up an acquaintance with a U.S. Marine, Tomoko has made his service club her afternoon hangout.
Where are they at? Germany?
His destination, an American airbase overseas. His jade cufflinks aren't just accidental attire.
So Soviet operatives wear jade cufflinks? I'm confused. Maybe this is a is this World War II? I thought this was Cold War. It says 1964, so, but it's like Germans and Japanese. This would be like, maybe they're using Axis time as an example. I can't remember. They've got that like generically Asian music, don, 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 and you've got a guy with jade cufflinks. Is that how we identify spies? The Soviets wear jade cufflinks. Was she Japanese or Chinese? Now I'm confused. Her name was Japanese, right? Wasn't it? Tamamoto or something? So she can't be a Soviet. I guess she could.
Different people in different parts of the world, but all with a common mission. For each is a hostile agent of the worldwide Sino-Soviet intelligence network.
Identified by cufflinks?
Pardon, sir. Could I trouble you for a match?
Their job? To exploit, if and when the opportunity arises, you, the serviceman and woman, in order to gain access to information that can be of value to an enemy.
I just can't understand how these sergeants wouldn't think or conceive of the house of ill repute being the place by which this would happen. I mean, you'd be a lot less likely to be entrapped in this by meeting a woman at a bar than you would going to the damn massage parlor. That's the goofy part. Anyway, this is a funny thing. We're not going to watch all this, but like this guy instructing you on how to avoid being entrapped is pretty funny. I'll just play a little bit more.
These cases have been taken from the files of the Army Intelligence Corps, the Office of Special Investigation, U.S. Air Force, and the Office of Naval Intelligence. Today, we're going to show you 3 cases of attempted espionage by agents of the Sino-Soviet intelligence system. Now, for security reasons, certain names and locations have been altered. But essentially, these things happen.
That take. But as you know, emigration is against the laws of our country.
Classified material.
Yeah, there's 3 cases, and here's the one where the woman gets entrapped, I think, into like doing drops. She has to drop this information underneath a rock or whatever.
For he was arrested and jailed under violation of local espionage laws, bringing to an end his career as an intelligence agent. A relative behind the Iron Curtain. Indebtedness, loneliness, the desire for an easy buck. All vulnerable areas ripe for exploitation.
Well, what about the happy ending case? I thought we were gonna get a little more action out of Yamamoto or whatever her name was at the beginning. What happened to that story? Is that this soldier man here? He's waiting to meet her at the restaurant. Is that, I think, how it goes?
Stars and stripes from your own information officer, but it is too much trouble. So, here. Where's the bedroom?
Anyway, you guys can watch this on your own. We'll get back to our story. Why did 100 people leave after that? That was like the best part, was all this stuff. I don't get it. People's attention spans are just destroyed. So, a lot of people lost out there. There was a similar situation with Sir Harrison, Sir Harrison, British case where a similar thing had happened to an older man. He fell for a young girl, Sir Jeffrey Hansen, British ambassador to Moscow. He was entrapped by an attractive young Russian girl named Galia. She was a KGB swallow. He saw her emerging from a bathtub with no clothes and immediately was infatuated. They began a relationship, and he soon found out that her bedroom had been bugged with hidden cameras, and the KGB had succeeded in entrapping a high-level British, ambassador. But the most serious case was the KGB entrapment of Rear Admiral Herman Lloydka. He's a British Rear Admiral assigned to NATO in the 1960s, and he had clearance for everything top secret. NATO's confidential, secret, and cosmic top secret rating, whatever cosmic top secret is in NATO. He was a married man with 5 children and had a very important position at NATO at the time. He was also a good-looking and charismatic man, and that made him attractive to many women. During one of his work stays in Paris in 1966, he was being watched very closely by Soviet agents who learned that he was frequenting a nightclub called the Left Bank. One particular evening, the KGB sent a sensuous 23-year-old French girl in named Yvonne. She successfully talked him up, chatted him up, trapped him. And they had an evening of wild lovemaking with many erotic positions. This was all filmed, all photographed. And the Rear Admiral was then forced into handing over pretty much everything classified that he could get his hands on for the KGB. This did a tremendous amount of damage to NATO during this time. Lloydka was shown all of this and continued to cooperate. The KGB was also aware that Rear Admiral Lloydka supervised the storage of billions of dollars worth of military equipment, including F-104 Lockheed starfighters, surface-to-air missiles, air-to-air missiles, etc. Pretty much all the ammunition of NATO forces. He was, however, under total demand for the KGB, as enslaved and in bondage to the KGB. This is his words. In 1967, after NATO's command structure, including SHAPE, that is the Supreme Headquarters of Allied Powers of Europe, was transferred from France to Belgium, they increased their ransom demand. The KGB ordered Lloydka to subvert members of his staff by using whatever methods were at hand, including prawn. That's because Lloydka would occasionally peruse his hobby of photographing underage people. So he was making his own prawn. And operational changes took place in NATO in 1967, and Lloydka was in control of more weapons and research. So this was even worse for this. And then they asked him to give him the parts for the Hawk missile system. Lloydka obtained the parts and took them to his usual KGB rendezvous points, but this was eventually discovered by NATO security. Once he had delivered all this vital material, the KGB arranged for the treasonable acts to be discovered by his own intel. So the KGB was setting him up to be discovered by his own people. An undercover agent at NATO photographed some old documents still classified as top secret using a Minox. That's that little camera that you saw that was given as a gift. As you guys, everybody thought that was Jamie's pregnancy test, which it said very clearly underneath it that it's a KGB Minox camera. To establish the Admiral's connection to all these pictures, the agent went to the parking lot, took several photographs of Lloydka's car. The film was turned over to a KGB camera expert who broke into Lloydka's apartment and replaced the film in his camera with the forgery. Unaware of the switch, Lloydka snapped several pictures of his family and his nude persons, and the film was taken to a development studio. This was all a frame-up, and eventually he was offed. So the murder... It's unclear who killed Lloydka, but it could easily be either the KGB or the CIA. And that would be for multiple reasons. Both sides had a lot of motivations. But his information also, I think, led to other NATO deaths. Multiple people around Lloydka ended up offed or suicided or something else. Only once in the history of the FBI. Now, this was in 1990, and so I'm wondering why they said once in the history of the FBI because, I mean, wasn't it the whole goofy TV movie with the Robert Hansen story? So maybe this came out after. Yeah, they made this movie with what's his name, frickin' John C. Lilly. Have you guys watched this? Everybody should watch this if you haven't seen it, because it's a TV movie, but it's pretty good, from 2002, and it's got what's her face from Weeds in it as his wife, Mary Louise Parker and William Hurt. But I don't know why this guy's saying only once, because this must have happened after. So this would be twice now. So Robert Hansen pleaded guilty of espionage. Okay, so this is twice. So before Robert Hansen in 2002, yeah, the only person who had been busted in the FBI doing this was a guy named Richard Miller. So, and I think both guys were entrapped. I was trying to find this. Yeah. A lot of these people, they're not, you think they're entrapped by babes. They're not all entrapped by babes. Some of these people are entrapped by not babes. They're like sending like freaking hags. And I'm thinking, it must be pretty easy to entrap people, because a lot of these people, like, I mean, okay, I get it. You're entrapped by a bombshell 10, right? Okay, yeah, I can understand that you caved. But I mean, a lot of these chicks that entrap people are not hot. That's the other surprising thing. Many of them are, many of them are not. So let me show you. You can't really find pictures of her. There's only one blurry picture, but she does not look attractive. Svetlana. You got to see this Soviet chick here. She's not good looking. Ogorodenkova. And I don't. Maybe the KGB was like short on funds. They were like, we don't really have the funds right now for babes. So let's just send him a kind of a mid chick. Let's see. Is this her? I mean, she's not ugly, but like, is that her? I can't tell if that's her or not. What the heck is all this crap? I don't know. Maybe that's her. This is somebody's blog. If that's her, right? It's like, this chick's not that good looking. How did you fall for her? Anyway, it's hard to find any of these pictures. I mean, basically Google doesn't work, but let me show you if you can. She looks like a dang cigarette grandma. You know what I mean? Like, here, this is her right here. You know what I mean? She looks like she's going to be taking your order at the diner and trying to get you to buy some tater tots. You need some more coffee? You want me to top that off? You know, that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm like, it's not much of it. Anyway, that's all it took to entrap Richard Miller. So he was the first of the FBI characters to be entrapped, Richard Miller. And then we got the Robert Hansen case in 2002. And by the way, I won't say who, but I talked to somebody who said that they were involved in that case, which is interesting. And did you know they made that? Isn't that other movie about this? Breach? Remember that movie Breach? Yeah, okay. So Ryan Felipe and that ugly ass dude, he was involved in this. Did you guys, Laura Linney, remember this? It's a decent movie. It's a little slow. So there's two versions of it. There's the TV movie with William Hurt called The Robert Hansen Story. And then there's the 2007 Ryan Felipe Laura Linney movie. I forget the guy that's playing this one. Chris Cooper. I can never think of that guy's name. Did you guys watch Breach? So this is about the Hansen story. And what's interesting about the Hansen story is very similar to if you watch the recent documentary that featured John le Carré. And it was called Pigeon. I recommend this too if you haven't seen it. Pigeon Tunnel. The Pigeon Tunnel. Yeah, that's it. This is a pretty good documentary. It's an Apple documentary, I think. And this revolves around a career of John le Carré, of course, the famous espionage writer. We just covered, as you guys know, his famous Mossad story, Little Drummer Girl. We covered that a few weeks ago. This is a documentary where they interviewed le Carré, who never gives interviews. So basically, he super private, never really gave any interviews. The interview is told in this very weird, trippy style. I mean, it was well produced. Some of the interview I thought was a little weird, but what I thought was fascinating was the first story that he told about the entrapment that he was involved in had to do with Soviets at one of the British universities. I don't know, Eton or Cambridge or somewhere. It was, it's similar to the Cambridge spy ring. It wasn't Philby, but it was the people in those circles. Another one of these British intelligence operatives that's Skittles. Okay, so it's just people can't figure out that all governments are toppling, nations are falling, kingdoms are falling, wars are being lost. Not even so much because of the hetero stuff. It's because of all the Skittles everywhere. So governments get filled with Skittles people. They're easily compromised and controlled, and then everything just collapses. For example, now le Carré doesn't explain a lot of details in regard to his first operation, but one of his first operations was a fellow young man at, I think, Cambridge. I don't remember who. Anyway, one of these elite British schools. And it sounds like this person thought that le Carré was maybe going to be his boyfriend. And that didn't happen. And this person was turned in. And it's the same story with all of these Soviet defecting British intelligence people. Now, why are all of these British intelligence people Skittles, first of all? Could they not root out Skittles people? I just can't. I don't understand why there would be so many. This would be such a recurring problem for British intelligence. Can you not figure out who's straight? I don't get it. So, but I don't know. How are the Soviets so good at finding the people light in their loafers? Another one of these British individuals that got entrapped, John Vassall. And he, basically the Soviets just turned on their gaydar and they're like, we got them. All of these people are on our side now because we turned on our gaydar. Now, interestingly, in the case of Hansen was a trad cat. He wasn't even Skittles. If I recall, he liked to watch people with his wife. I think that's what it was. And so here's a trad cat who likes to be cucked. Isn't that right? You guys remember? You guys have seen Breach, right? Isn't this what's going on? So Breach was another case of entrapment. It just turned out that his dumb proclivity was to watch people enjoying his wife. That's what happens in the plot, and I think that's true, if you guys remember. But they don't like to talk about all the details because I guess it's kind of embarrassing. But it's like, why was he entrapped? Well, they found out that he was, now this says Lutheran. Oh, he was born Lutheran. Let's see. No, he converted to Tradcat. His wife. Yes, his wife turned him Tradcat. Okay, well, I guess Wikipedia is not going to tell us. Anyway, in the movie, at least, I don't know what the real story is, but I wouldn't be surprised. Does anybody remember this movie? Nobody knows? So, I mean, might as well be Skittles. He's watching people bang his wife. I mean, all right, moving on. Hall of Pleasurable Delights. Let's go back to, we're going to get straight up Nippon, right? Hall of Fame. No, Hall of Pleasurable Delights. You know what? This might actually pull up something else. Maybe I shouldn't search this. We're going to get some freaking nasty, weird anime stuff or something. Yosawara. The Red Light District. Is that it? See, you can't even search any of this stuff. Like the actual history, none of this comes up. By the way, if you guys would hit like and share, welcome to tonight's interesting. Yes, I forgot Robert Hansen was Opus Dei. Exactly. Now, does anybody remember the actual case though? What wasn't he like? He was like sending videos of his wife sleeping with people or something. It was just like freaking weirdos. I mean, we all have our vices, but I mean, some of these vices are just freaking off the hook, just insane. Okay, so nothing comes up with this, but this was the Hall of Pleasurable Delights, and as we said, this was the invention of a Prussian intelligence handler by the name of Stieber, and he worked for the Prussian government and set up this vast kind of greenhouse, as he called it, and then Japan got wind of this, and they said, we want you to come over here and set up your whole technique, your whole system, and we'll call it the Hall of Pleasurable Delights. And it basically be a giant, I guess, a palace. It doesn't say how big it was, but it doesn't sound small if it's the Hall of Pleasurable Delights. And it catered to any whim. So anything, apparently. And it does seem that in Japan, they'll go for anything. I remember one time before I met Jamie, I've never been to Japan, but there was this techno DJ girl that I was talking to. And I don't know if this is true, but it doesn't sound far-fetched. And I apologize, this is gross, but this gives you an idea of how gross things can get. But she said that when she went to play a rave in Japan, that the very wealthy Japanese businessmen, this is so crazy. Maybe I shouldn't even say this. How can we say this in code? Basically, they will pay the ladies of the evening, this is like the multimillionaire business class, to fast for a long time. The ladies' systems clear out. They eat strawberries, and that's like all they're allowed to eat, right? And then the Japanese businessmen eat the strawberries after they have processed. And it's just so freaking weird and gross that I don't think that techno chick was lying. That just sounds like, I'm like, what is wrong with these Japanese people? Like, what? That's just crazy, dude. Come on. Does nobody just want to have a man and a woman? Like, is that, y'all don't want that? I mean, isn't your population declining? Like, maybe you guys should, like, throw out all the degeneracy and maybe just go back to, like, man and woman. Like, remember that? Do you guys remember that thing?